We'd like to thank the Cloud Native Computing Foundation for sponsoring our podcast from CloudNativeCon in Seattle. Inspired by internet scale computing, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation advances the development of cloud native technology and services by creating a new set of common container technologies informed by technical merit and end user value. You can learn more about the Cloud Native Computing Foundation at cncf.io. Hey, it's Alex Williams of the New Stack here, launching off KubeCon Cloud Native Days in Seattle, Washington. The keynote for the morning just got underway, and I'm now going to have a conversation, the first of the day, with Alena Prokharchyk of Rancher Labs, a principal software engineer. Alena.
Hello.
And Brian Scott, managing systems engineer. How are you doing, Brian?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, really, with the big theme that we're trying to explore today is, how is Kubernetes being used in production, and some of the projects that are coming out of the CNCF community. And so our discussion here, for our purposes, really focuses on using Kubernetes in production. And so Brian, I wanted to just ask you a quick question. What are the roots of your involvement with Kubernetes? Why did you guys start using Kubernetes? And take us to maybe where we are today.
So I think over the past year, there's been this explosion of all these different types of orchestration technologies that allow you to deploy containers in many different ways. And I think at Disney, we've tried many different tools. I mean, we're very much a technology company, and we use a mixture of different tools. And Kubernetes kind of resonates with us on many different levels. And one of them is the way that it orchestrates containers onto the actual nodes. So with that, all the integration that it has with both private and public clouds really makes sense for us, and it kind of extracts a lot of the issues around provisioning nodes, as well as load balancers and secrets for us. So a lot of the secret sauce that we don't really have to write around other tools are kind of already somewhat provided for us with Kubernetes.
Okay. So how did Rancher Labs become part of your orchestration platform, and how's it used?
So obviously, we're a very large organization, so we use many different types of tools as well as orchestration methods, and each team kind of has their own way of doing things. So with Rancher, we were able to allow our teams to use any orchestration they wanted and kind of keep everyone happy. Right, and it kind of gives everyone this single pane of glass on where they can see where everything is laid out, and we can kind of get a feel for any type of orchestration that may fit that certain type of style of application.
Okay. So Alena, Rancher can deploy with multiple orchestration tools. How does it work with Kubernetes?
So yeah, as Brian already mentioned, you may pick one orchestration tool for one of your environments, another for another. And let's assume that you've picked Kubernetes and you want to start deploying your Kubernetes applications. But before that, you actually have to bring up your Kubernetes system cluster, and that's where it gets complicated, because you can have multiple cloud providers in your organizations, and to be able to run Kubernetes services on multiple nodes, you have to set up the plumbing, the networking, the storage, and we tried to make it cloud agnostic and very user intuitive when it comes to the deployment. So all user needs to do is to register the host within Rancher from any cloud provider, DigitalOcean, AWS. We lay the overlay network for you, we pick up the storage driver, and we deploy the Kubernetes system stack. It's all containerized. From then on, your user applications deployment is delegated to Kubernetes, our work is done. We continue monitoring the Kubernetes cluster. If anything goes wrong, we replace the Kubernetes containers. We keep an eye on the health checks, so just to make sure that Kubernetes cluster is green.
Okay, so tell us about that setup, what's involved in that setup. What are the complexities that you're abstracting from the process. I mean, as I understand, it's a master kind of node environment, right? And there's a lot of things that you have to do if you don't have that support, right? You have to be setting up the overlay network, for example.
Yeah.
There's lots. Take us through what you're abstracting, that complexity that you're abstracting.
So we abstract the hardware and the first you have to register your nodes. Whether it's a cloud, it's a virtual machine in the cloud provider or bare metal host. Then on top of that, we start layering our infrastructure services. The infrastructure service is the overlay network, as you said. For that, we'll let you pick any CNI plugin you want, whether it's a Calico, Weave, or Rancher IPsec. Then internal DNS, because Kubernetes, as any other service, its components have to talk to each other, have to discover each other. That's where DNS really helps. And then the health check service. That's like a groundwork. After all this is done, you stand up your Kubernetes cluster. Kubernetes system cluster consists of multiple services like etcd, the data plane, and then the control plane, API server, and Once this layer is set, a user is all ready to deploy his applications on Kubernetes.
Okay, so tell us where Disney is right now. Are you in production?
So yes, we are using on Kubernetes.
How are you using it in production?
We're using it with a number of different applications. Some of them are large, some of them are small. But I think where some of the challenges that we've definitely been able to use Rancher is to kind of cut away all of the hard setup of Kubernetes. In the past, we've had to use third-party tools as well as kind of manage our own masters and our own slaves within the Kubernetes. Now it's kind of it's more like a push button setup.
It's really that easy.
Yeah.
Now, do you run your own infrastructure entirely?
Yes.
Okay, and so tell us about your infrastructure. Is this bare metal or are these virtualized environments?
We both utilize both on-prem as well as a public cloud. So we're able to leverage either on-prem and or Amazon and or Google to actually host our various different types of
how is Rancher extending itself to support multiple cloud environments? There's Azure that's available.
Yeah.
There's AWS is not fully supported, but there's lots of people who are using AWS with Kubernetes. What are you guys doing?
So for Rancher, our goal is to make the infrastructure deployment as well as the Kubernetes deployment cloud agnostic. So as a user, it shouldn't be any different for you to set up your infrastructure plumbing and launch your Kubernetes or Mesos or Swarm cluster. We wanted to make it as cloud agnostic as possible. So it's really one click. All you have to do is launch your Kubernetes cluster and we lay out all your plumbing for you.
Okay. What are some of the tooling that you're still looking for that you would like to see to make your operations run smoothly?
So I think there's some key areas that affect almost every company within the container space. I think storage is still something that we need to solve. I think secret management, even though Kubernetes has a secret management, I think there's certain things with that teams still have to solve for, as well as dynamic configuration management of config files within your application. And I think role management and as well as access control. There still needs some tooling around there. Within a very large organization, people come in and go, and I think with that we need to be able to actually better manage who actually still has access to our infrastructure.
Role management and access control. Yeah. I heard Craig McCluskey talking about the challenges of the developer actually still touching the physical server itself. Is that kind of what you're referring to, or are we
so I think that's kind of with us at least is going more away through CI and CD, right? We try and envision the whole life cycle starting from that first Git commit, right? When that Git commit is made to either GitHub and or maybe a GitLab, that kind of triggers the whole life cycle of
that's the CI
application. Yes.
Environment.
Yeah.
So how do you guys treat that? How do you guys treat that continuous integration from the Git commit all the way through the whole kind of process itself?
So usually we try and make our pipelines as automated as possible, and I can kind of let Alena go through kind of how some of that integration is done.
So that's actually when it comes to the user application deployment, and it is actually up to the up to the user in what way he wants to configure it.
There's lots of tools out there to use to do that. There's shippable, there's worker, there's different tools. Do you guys have your own, or do you?
We actually provide a framework for for keeping your application template. So like you can choose whatever template you want for CI/CD, and you deploy it as a user application on the orchestration provider of your choice.
Okay.
So, I think because Rancher exposes a certain API back out to the user, right? We can integrate that with either Jenkins or let's say Bamboo or any other type of like CI tool of our choosing.
Okay. So with the overall kind of like tell us a little bit about your overall kind of your scale out infrastructure. How are you integrating with kind of those other pieces that you have? I mean, did you use Red Hat? Are you?
I think like everyone else, we use a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say, but we really trying to like, utilize as much of the APIs as possible.
Right.
Kind of have that tight integration.
So that seems to be kind of a theme that I've been hearing is like, again, Craig McCluskey talked about the atom of work being the API. Is that how do you bring that core philosophy, Alena, into your own development of the Rancher platform? Do you have any, how are you thinking about like that automation as kind of a core tenet of what Rancher provides?
I would say in Rancher, we mostly concentrate on the automating your infrastructure and orchestrators.
I think like if you look at Rancher, right, it primarily focuses on infrastructure automation.
Right.
And with that allows us to be truly portable, right? Whereas right now, most solutions are either tied to either a certain cloud provider or they're tied to just on-prem.
Okay.
So I think this kind of allows us to kind of span like the multiverse of different like providers out there, whether it's on-prem, like private cloud, and or public cloud. We can truly be very portable with our applications.
So where do you want to go from here? Like with your own use of Kubernetes, what's the next step? What are you trying to learn here at this event in particular to help you get to that next step?
I'm here personally to try and gather as much knowledge as possible about what's going on with Kubernetes, how different companies are using it, how they're tying into the like Kubernetes like API, to make sure that we can actually grab as much of use out of it as possible.
How is it allowed? Yeah. So what's the flexibility you're trying to achieve? What are some of the goals that you have?
Obviously, our number one goal is to deliver the best guest experience back out to our guests, right? So definitely moving a lot faster is where we want to be. Being able to make sure that we can reflect those changes back out to our user as quickly as possible.
So for Rancher itself, the platform and how it's growing, what's the direction you guys want to take Rancher?
So we wanna explore all the tools that is out there for Kubernetes cluster deployment. We wanna learn from their experience. We also wanna follow the Kubernetes closely to see like what new features they're adding, how can they be integrated with Rancher, like what should be changed in the Kubernetes system cluster startup and management. So we're mostly concentrating on the Kubernetes architecture, just to make the user experience for Kubernetes deployment easier.
What new features would you like to see?
We are working on the integrating with infrastructure around Kubernetes, like Helm catalog service. That's something we want to integrate with Rancher. Helm.
Yeah.
Helm. Then the next big feature is Kubernetes federated control plane. That's something we want to see in Rancher very soon.
Why is that?
Just because it's very reliable, like it's very good when it comes to scheduling. It allows you to maintain like multiple clouds.
Because you can configure that whole control plane in itself.
That's right. Yes.
Right. And what makes that difficult now?
It's just we need more time for that. We just have to work on this integration part. Like we have to bring the UI, we have to bring the API experience to Rancher users.
Because now it's mostly just a command line.
Now mostly like you can stand up the standalone Kubernetes clusters, And Kubernetes, to set up the Kubernetes control plane is like one extra layer on top of these clusters.
So how about for you? What are some of the things that you like to see in Kubernetes?
I think Federation that just got introduced allows us to span across our applications across our multiple clusters within like various different regions. I think Kubernetes still has some work to do, and again in certain areas like storage, primarily. But for the most part, it is solving a lot of people's problems.
So you are able to use, you are getting a better handle on storage with stateful applications?
Yeah, slowly, yeah.
So what is, I guess I'll ask you both, what's your approach right now?
For storage, I think we're trying to use what's currently out there. There's NFS, there's SIFs for people like that are running on Windows. People are taking advantage of the backend storage systems that are provided by both Google and as well as like Amazon. I think ultimately folks just kind of have to be able to build their clouds or build their applications to better support like cloud technologies.
How about for you guys? What's your approach to storage and dealing with stateful applications with the Rancher platform?
So in the Rancher platform, we provide storage for Kubernetes using the Flex volume drivers, and our goal is to add as many storage drivers as possible.
So how many do you support now?
We support just a couple of them today, which are EFS and RexRay, but we are thinking about adding more. Like whatever Kubernetes supports, we should support. The same with the networking drivers. We want to add all possible CNI driver that Kubernetes support into Rancher.
CNI is it?
Yeah.
It's not lib network at all. Then.
No, not for Kubernetes. For Kubernetes, it's CNI.
Yeah, but so do you find many customers are running Kubernetes and Swarm and other orchestration platforms?
It's usually,
or is it mostly just one or the other?
Usually, like when you come to Rancher, you have an ability to try, and then you make a pick. But we have customers who run Kubernetes and Cuddle. Cuddle is our built-in orchestration platform.
Cuddle?
Yeah, it's called Cuddle.
Whose platform is that?
It is Rancher built-in platform.
Oh, Cuddle, okay.
Platform.
All right.
We actually orchestrate Kubernetes system cluster with Cuddle.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but customers who use Kubernetes and Swarm, not really. And I'd say Kubernetes is one of the most popular orchestration platforms in Rancher.
Was it Kubernetes for you guys always from the start?
So we use everything.
You do?
Yeah.
Because that's what Disney has to do, right? Don't you?
It really depends on the team and kind of how they feel.
Right. And so you're using Kubernetes. Are you using other platforms too then, orchestration?
We use Cattle, we use like Kubernetes. We're even like using Mesos. It's just a wide mix.
Are you using Swarm too?
Swarm as well, yeah.
Right. How about over time the long-term stability of these platforms? Are you confident in the long-term stability?
I think that this day and age, everything's changing so quickly that you have to be able to adapt your applications to be able to pivot very quickly.
Right.
And so we try and make sure that we can, at least build our applications in a way where we can actually pivot to something new and something better let this come out.
How about you? How about for Rancher?
We invest equally to all the orchestration platforms that Rancher supports, whether it's Cattle, Kubernetes, Mesos, or Swarm. So it's really the user preference of what he wants to choose for his environment. And even within the same company, like the development environment can choose Kubernetes and QA can choose Mesos, and we support all these models.
Have you had to create your own internal forks, for instance, of different platforms to be able to continue to support all the different platforms overall in Rancher?
You mean the Kubernetes fork?
Yeah, or there's inevitably going to come to a point where like you're working upstream, right, and your commits maybe not accepted or something like that. And so you have to like then create your own forks internally into the platform itself. Is that something that you're having to do?
That's actually something we started with for Kubernetes in Rancher. We started with maintaining our fork because our networking in the beginning it wasn't CNI, it wasn't in a CNI format, but we actually converted it to the CNI driver, and we are working on upstreaming Rancher changes to Kubernetes. Like we have a couple of engineers working on these changes. But yes, for now we just maintain our own Kubernetes fork. But there's there's nothing much rather than our provider, because Kubernetes releases are pretty fast, and the features get in quickly, and the bugs are fixed quickly. So there's no real reason for us to maintain our own fork.
So for you, Brian, do you work upstream, with the different open source platforms, or do we really wait for the vendors to kind of take the lead and provide that service?
I think because we're a very strong
technically talented
team, we kind of look to open source first.
Yeah.
We just recently launched a bunch of open source projects within the company out to the public, and we definitely take the initiative in looking into open source and to make sure that it can actually fit our needs and solve our problems.
So I guess just in conclusion, once again, what do you want to see come out of Kubernetes and Rancher over the next 6 to 12 months? Just on a high level.
See a lot more tighter integration, especially as newer features are coming out within Kubernetes. I definitely want to see some of the challenges solved around storage.
So what would those tighter integrations be exactly then?
So again, what Alena was saying around federation support.
Okay.
And as well as kind of see how we can solve, or at least better solve, the persistent storage issue around stateful applications.
Anything specific about federation that you'd like to see, Alena?
All we need to do is just to provide the UI for federation.
Right.
And it's going to be like another Rancher environment on top of Kubernetes cluster environments.
Okay.
There's nothing more than just a UI management.
Okay. Well, thank you both for taking some time to talk with us here at KubeCon Cloud Native Day. Have a great show. Alena, Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
We'd like to thank the Cloud Native Computing Foundation for sponsoring our podcast from CloudNativeCon in Seattle. Inspired by internet scale computing, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation advances the development of cloud native technology and services by creating a new set of common container technologies informed by technical merit and end user value. You can learn more about the Cloud Native Computing Foundation at cncf.io.